Hello, and welcome to today's Energy Central Power session titled From Data Silos to Predictive Asset Intelligence in Energy and Utilities. We are so glad that you're joining us, and now I'm going to hand things over to Tushar to kick things off. Tushar, welcome. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Megan. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Our topic for today is moving from data silos to predictive asset intelligence using IBM's Maximo application suite. Well, my name is Tushar Trivedi, and I will be your moderator today. And we're joined today by an esteemed panel bringing together industry, delivery, and product expertise with the IBM Maximo application suite. From IBM, we have Terry, our IBM Maximo application suite expert. We have Lax, who leads LTM's mass delivery and transformations. Representing ATCO, we're joined by Danny. She heads up the delivery. John manages the application delivery, and Bobby, who manages the application support. Today's session is focused on utilities, power, gas, and water alike, and how organizations can move away from fragmented data landscapes toward predictive intelligence-driven asset management. Well, just to kick it off, what I wanted to do was run a couple of quick polls. And if you don't mind giving us your views on the polls or where you stand, it would be highly beneficial for our conversations as we move forward. Megan, can we bring up the poll number one? Our poll one is about what is your biggest asset management challenge today? And if you can just give us your views, that would be great.
Looks like we're just about through everyone participating. Let me go ahead and show the results.
Wow, this looks good. Data silos across EAM, SCADA, IoT, and inspection, which is perfect, which is where we all want to have this conversation today. Megan, can we bring up poll number two? And this is all about where you are in your EAM journey. So if you can share your current state, that would actually help us.
We'd love to see if you aren't currently using Maximo. Type into the questions box what platform you are using. Yeah, strong results here. Let me go ahead and show those results.
Very nice. So I think it's going to be appropriate since a lot of our audience is not using Maximo, or they are using 7X or earlier, right? Great. So let's sort of, review what the current state of the industry is. As you all know, utilities are operating under unprecedented pressure, primarily aging infrastructure, climate volatility, renewable integration, electrification, rapidly rising demand, especially from the data centers and AI push. These are all pushing grid reliability to its limits, right? Which is where all the assets are sitting for us. So traditionally, utilities have operated in a reactive mode. They're repairing assets after failure. That approach, we don't believe is going to be sustainable anymore, right? So the future lies in predictive intelligence, anticipating failures before they occur, prioritizing maintenance based on the risk that we see, enabling the proactive decision-making, and in order for all of these things to happen, the data needs to come together. Well, if the data needs to come together, that is the biggest challenge that we all see in our current environments today, where our data is sitting in multiple different silos, and that's not in all in one place, right? Terry, a quick question to you as we start talking about the industry trends that shape predictive asset intelligence, and we dive into any solutions. Can you set the stage by talking about the key industry trends that we're seeing in utilities today?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. I mean, they're common, certainly among utilities and certainly electric utilities, but gas and water face similar challenges. I mean, the number one focus is on safety, right? I mean, these assets are significant and needed to be treated with respect. And so safety is always at the forefront of any utility in terms of the work and asset management that they do. They constantly balance between risk, cost, and performance. I mean, that's what they're really challenged with. And of course, reliability and availability of the assets are number one to meet the demand that they're faced with. What hasn't changed, but it's just getting more severe, is that we've got an aging infrastructure. On top of that, we've got newer assets entering the portfolio, which have different characteristics in terms of how they're maintained, and some of those assets have elements of IT within them in terms of how they're maintained. And then you've got a transitioning workforce. We certainly have those that have or are retiring, and you've got a younger, inexperienced workforce joining, so needing to have guidance and real-time advice on that. So these conditions combined with the climate challenges that many utilities are facing, and then the demand engine that's driven off of AI and data centers, the ramp up of all the generation that's taking place and the transmission and distribution of that, create an interesting challenge where now utilities, I think, are really focused on, how do I embrace technology? How do I embrace AI capabilities to help me be more efficient and effective in this environment? How do I better understand the risk of my portfolio of assets? How do I understand the current health so that I can balance and dispatch the right resources to the right work at the right time to make sure that I'm available, reliable, and meeting customer demand? So really simple things like cameras and AI and mobile devices kind of help that workforce, because so often we depend on physical inspections to find out the current state of our assets. We dispatch crews to the substation, to do checklists and, check on the assets and look at, the current demand and health of those assets. Well, we can actually use sensors. We can use cameras to help us in real time do some of that where we might otherwise dispatch people. So we're looking at, how do we augment those 5 senses that our people have to help us better understand the current condition of assets, so we move to an unconditioned approach on asset and work management.
No, these are perfect inputs, Terry. Let's take a step and understand, how do our customers face this challenge today? So to make it real, Danny, John, Bobby, what challenges do you guys see at ATCO because of these data silos?
So at ATCO, from a leadership perspective, a strategy perspective, some of the biggest issues we see is limited visibility into the true asset health. So we have data that lives across multiple systems. We have data in SCADA, GIS, EIM, and of course spreadsheets. Each area tells only a small piece of the overall story, and there's significant lift and analysis that has to occur today to bring that together, bring consistency across one piece of data. How do you interpret that across the different systems?
John?
Then from an application delivery perspective, I think integration is a major hurdle. Asset data, maintenance history, condition data, and spatial data all live in different systems which aren't aligned. This makes planning and prioritization difficult because the data doesn't connect cleanly. We are forced to make decisions with partial or outdated information. This increases our risk and reduces the confidence in prioritization. A second major issue that I see is data quality. Our data is often captured differently depending on the systems, the business unit, or even the crew that's out there taking the measurements and doing the work. Over time, we've found inconsistent asset attributes, missing condition data, and as a result, we spend a lot of time compensating for data issues rather than delivering on new capabilities.
Yeah, and Bobby, what do you see on a day-to-day basis as you run into incidents, you run into outages? What is your view on the ground?
Yeah, for the support side, I mean, it's a lot of what John and Danny just mentioned. The data in different systems managed differently between different groups, and a lot of stuff we see as well is even a lot of the business processes have some effect on how the data is entered or even where the data is entered. So when an incident or even a simple request comes in for a new configuration, or I use analogies all the time, different box color requests, those kind of things, how the support teams and our IT operational teams, how they got to understand could differ across the entire organization. It causes, yeah, again, slower response times to incidents, because you really don't, there's 1,000 different places to look.
Yeah, and that too, if you add the complexity of multiple different asset systems in place, different versions, and then different types of users using them in different aspects of the business, right? So, which kind of walks us right into sort of the challenges that that the utilities are facing today, right? This slide, if I look at it more from a risk, cost, and a performance point of view, all three of these are key aspects of us, or the challenges that we're facing with our current work. So, Terry, how do you see the latest Maximo suite helping us with resolving some of these challenges, or all of these challenges, if I may say?
Well, so there's a couple things that are certainly part of the heritage of Maximo itself, and that's the integration framework. So that's meant to, meet the utility where they're at. They have many legacy systems that may be in place that they've got to interact with. You don't just rip and replace. So the integration framework has always been there to interact and support integration between the different applications that may need to exchange information, and reduce these silos. So that's part of the intent of that to begin with. We are not the GL system, we are not the HR system. We depend on ERP systems to provide that, but we do provide connectors to SAP, Oracle, and the different ERP systems, and we do provide, integration in terms of Maximo Spatial for the GIS perspective for that, and now also with all of our mobile capabilities. What has changed is that we recognized over time in asset lifecycle management that our customers had relied on different systems for asset performance management, asset investment planning, reliability-centered maintenance, failure modes and effects analysis. So that's what we built into the Maximo application suite. We built the portfolio of asset performance management for health. We built the asset investment planning, which will now be in its second release, in this June. So we've now had 14 releases actually of the Maximo application suite. It's fairly mature at this point, but the intent is to ingest the data that the customer has and provide that, in one enterprise view, so that they get a common perspective across the enterprise. Now, it's going to take a while for customers to be able to take advantage of some of those things, so we certainly expect them to use the applications they have. We can ingest that information, but over time they can do their standard scoring within Maximo application suite itself, within their APM. So it's really, we've brought in EAM, asset performance management, asset investment planning, reliability centered maintenance, where we brought in all the failure modes and effects analysis capabilities that we get from EPRI, and also field service management, where now this release in June, actually we will have AI available on the mobile device as a Maximo assistant to have natural language processing and questions in the field directly with AI. So our intent is to try to serve up that data across the enterprise that they can best understand the current health and risk and focus on those assets that most need attention.
Okay, wow, that's great. That's a lot of new features and functionality that is coming to the table.
It is, and some people don't realize it didn't just happen, over the past few years. It actually is part of the portfolio that developed independently from Maximo even back in 2010, where we started doing a lot of the APM work for insights for energy and APM for E&U. And what we found is that we needed a common UI and a common asset lifecycle management approach. So that's why we brought all this together. And you see all that in the circular slide to the left. Maximo is kind of in the center in terms of operate, where you've got APM to the left and to the right, and asset investment planning to the left. And of course, all the industries that we focus on and have been core to the way we approach it, because all industries are not the same. You know, utilities have some unique concerns, oil and gas have unique concerns, healthcare have unique concerns, and with civil infrastructure, transportation, we address those very specifically by the industry segments.
So, this is very interesting when you say that if you look at the picture, Maximo is at the center, and then all other different modules are kind of surrounding it.
Yeah.
It is so interesting that you said that, and I realized that for every customer Maximo implementation that I have seen, I've always seen Maximo as at the core center of it, and all other applications with interconnections going all over the place, right? So it just kind of fits into the sort of the reality of where things are. Now, with all this complexity, maybe Lax and Terry, if you can share your views on how the predictive intelligence, right, is enabled with MAS, or with the latest version of the MAS.
Sure.
What all can our viewers today, take away with the changing needs of the utility, with the advancements of digital adoption in utilities? What do you see happening?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Terry, if you want to start, I can jump in.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so from a Maximo practice delivery perspective, which we have been doing for more than a decade, the points that Terry brought out, that MAS manage the core is all there. It's the data that is available. But to get to predictive, it's not like you're flipping a switch and it will start. It has a strategic approach that organizations need to take. The base of all of this is data. If you have your data in place, which is aligned, which is consistent across the different line of businesses and the way assets are maintained, getting to predictive becomes a little more easier. At the same time, the different systems which are maintaining asset data have to be aligned. And you need to position Maximo, MAS, and new features that it brings to the table appropriately. Means it's not a system which you bring in, plug it in, and it will start doing your prediction. It is a system which will collect data from the different systems, it will analyze, and it will then get it to the predictive state. It has to start small. It has to start with your health scores. Your health scores of the assets have to be in place, and the scoring can only be in place if the attributes are all aligned, your maintenance processes are all standard, your failure modes and the way you transfer that back into your maintenance processes is in place. With those basic requirements and the processes, only then we can look at getting to predictive, have a governance and the advanced topics like cybersecurity and change management in place. So that is what the approach is we are taking with some of the clients that we are already working on this space. Maybe Terry, you can talk about the slide.
Yeah, I'd like to mention the fact that so the Watson X service, is embedded in Maximo Application Suite. The first really major release of that was in last June, when we embedded the Maximo Assistance and work order intelligence and added, the AI capabilities across various workflows. And we're adding more of that in the June release of 9.2, and of course, supporting that on the mobile devices. The thing that's important to recognize is that AI has a great deal of promise. However, it still depends on your data. It still depends on having, rich data that can be harvested. And when I talk about that, specifically, I'm talking about the PCR codes, problem, cause, remedy. That's been a structure that's been existing in Maximo for quite some time. But the customer still has to define their asset classes, asset types, and then the problem, cause, remedy associated with that. Now, one of the promises of AI, which is we saw one of our customers do this early on before we embedded it, was using AI as a data custodian. In other words, we can use the unstructured data of problem descriptions, both long and short description, where we can go back and reassign some of those problem, cause, remedy codes on data that work orders that may not have been classified. So that becomes an opportunity to really start being able to understand history and start to move more to understand the current health and condition. In addition, obviously, criticality is important. Was the criticality of the various assets, has that been clearly defined? You obviously want to pay most attention to those assets which are most critical to your, delivery to your environment. And so that becomes very important. And that can be used along with priority to come up with almost a priority sequencing to help you, isolate the most important work from those that may be less important and can be worked as backlog. When you look at the slide here, you're seeing our intent of the Maximo application suite in terms of the work process and the asset management. Our intent is to develop a portfolio that can be harvested by our customers to move to a condition-based model. That means, taking those time-based activities, taking those meter-based activities, and recognizing the fact that many assets, fail randomly, and starting to understand the health and condition so that you do those on condition, and that we can get our inspections, some of that performed through technology, through cameras, through sensors, to help us augment the understanding of real-time condition of assets. But that's the whole idea. There's far too much to pay attention to in the entire asset base. So we need to pay attention to what's important. And that's the way to, help surface that to the top. Yeah, this slide just shows that our focus is on maintenance, inspections, and reliability. And of course, we focus on the accelerators, which are, things that we've added to the product to have them be able to more effectively connect to sensors and being able to start making predictions of asset degradation. Which is really what we're talking about. We're not talking about predicting failures. We're talking about predicting asset degradation, and then how much time do you have to react when you see an asset starting to degrade in its capabilities. But it's all about, managing the assets, scheduling the work and the resources on those that are most need attention, taking advantage of technology in the field. So we've done quite a bit with the advancements of Maximo Mobile and field service management, and looking for anomaly detection. We've had customers use our computer vision capabilities in the substation to look at different patterns and alerts on certain assets that look like they're starting to degrade. But the whole idea is to move to one of reliability and an unconditioned maintenance strategy. That's the intent behind all of this, and to get the organization operating as one unit. If this is an enterprise view and perspective, you're hoping that those in the field have the same perspective of the importance of those assets as the reliability engineers and power production engineers, working in the utility.
So, Lex, what do you see sort of from our Maximo practice point of view for all the capabilities that Maximo is bringing to the table and all the changes that are happening with the utilities, right? How do we kind of engage in a successful predictive journey?
Yep, Tushar, I was about to talk about that. Technically, the system, it has a lot of features that are available, But what we have seen traditionally is not everything is used. The bare minimum is what is put in use for processes related to maintenance. But then the actual cream that is available to be used in terms of the functionality that Maximo and almost 3-4 years, 4 decades of enhancement of that product to bring it to where it is not put to use. But that is the technical aspects. We as LTM, as a practice unit, also believe in a holistic view to be taken for your entire strategic layer of right from asset onboarding, getting it into your integrity, reliability, and then the operational layer where you do your actual maintenance planning, maintenance executions, and the turnarounds. But all of this data needs to be analyzed and optimized. Um, Brought it all together using digital twins, your analysis, which is now available as a part of Maximo suite, and have a closed loop, because that has to feed back into your strategic layer so that your operations and your maintenance is optimized, your downtime is reduced, and your asset life increases uh, substantially. So we need to bring in a lot of uh, information about the line of business, your domain expertise, plus the technical expertise that we already have, and together uh, bring in the flavor of AI to take us to predictive.
So what have we seen, Lax, from our experience, what have we seen sort of the maturity of utilities when it comes to aligning to the new data paradigm, as well as their internal processes, their use of the system, their collection of all the data points? What's sort of what we have seen, and maybe Terry, if you can add to that as well, that would help kind of set a stage so that we can understand, or our audience can understand, how the MAS and asset suites like this are being used.
I would just comment that I've seen an acceleration of maturity. So I've been working in asset intensive industries now for 47 years. What I've seen in the past 15 years is an acceleration of utilities in terms of the importance of the data, how they assign work, how they plan work, schedule it, looking for answers to better understand the asset health, being able to better understand for outages caused by weather incidents. I mean, I've seen quite a mature advancement taking place for a variety of reasons that are occurring, but I'm seeing moving up to take advantage of these capabilities, but it takes time to get to all this. But there's definitely an appetite and a capability.
Okay, Lax, your views?
Yeah, I agree, because these systems have been around, as Terry mentioned, for 3-4 decades. Data has been collected. Now the time is to use that data and to start predicting. While we get a lot of these requests to start getting into the AI/ML aspects of MAS, the first thing that we always ask to do is check on the data maturity. So most of our processes that we have started, or engagements that we have, are in a state where the data is being analyzed. We are trying to make sure that aligns with what is required to get to predictive. Small POCs have been done, those have been successful, but when it comes to the larger data set, hundreds and thousands of assets that are there in the system, it needs a much more rigor and control in place. So that's what is going on. the data alignment part.
Okay. So let's turn over and ask the ATCO team. If we were to sort of start looking at the overall value of MAS, and what we just heard about the maturity of the data within your existing environments. Obviously, you all have been a MAS customer for a while. What do you see, one, from maturity of the data point of view? Second, how do you see some of the predictive aspects that we are talking today, the predictive intelligence, going to be of help to the ATCO teams?
The asset portfolio for utilities today, and especially for ATCO across our entire energy systems in both electric and gas, is so critical to protect and maintain and to understand the state of each one of our assets. Energy services are so critical to every single customer and to each one of us that live in these ecosystems. Unplanned reactive maintenance resulting in disruption of such a critical resource can no longer be acceptable to our customers and communities, right?
Yep.
With utilities and with ATCO, MAS really helps us enable a shift from reactive to risk-based proactive maintenance. Our reliability goes up, less disruption to our customers. We have Maximo as a core technology within our overall energy systems ecosystem. And it's like the central heart, the central hub. And it really does help us get more proactive. As AI, data maturity comes into place, as we work through that over time, that will just make that entire proactiveness better. Less disruption to our customers is our ultimate goal.
Great. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that Danny says. And I think for us, what it comes down to is how can we standardize our asset health scoring so that we have kind of a common framework. It gives us a better understanding of our assets' conditions and the risks that they're under. I think it's important to remove that subjectivity that you get, by adding an asset health score. You don't have that subjectivity anymore, and it makes it much easier for us to support any regulatory compliance and reporting requirements that we have.
Bobby, what would you like to add to this from a day-to-day basis? I mean, what do you want to see as a change maybe in the next, year, 3 years, 5 years, if maybe that's a view that you want to take from an operations point of view?
Sure. Yeah. So like both Danny and John mentioned, I mean, where we're at right now with the use of data, which I personally really enjoy about the whole MAS project, is even bad data sometimes provides good data. So you could see inconsistencies across our operational areas. We could see inconsistencies across how we support the product. And again, bringing a lot of that ties to our customers. And we want to treat, it doesn't matter geographically where those customers are at, because, one operating area might operate a different way, or they might have different jurisdiction requirements, different permits, that kind of stuff. But a customer is a customer. It doesn't matter where they are. So I think where I see us going is using the data to make those better operational decisions, to maybe tweak some of our business processes, utilize the data to, look at different types of equipment we're using out in the field, so those sorts of things. And even how, I'm speaking mostly, I've come from an operational background, new into IT, but even I'm even seeing it on the IT side of how we're supporting the end users. So our IT support teams are starting to realize that, the importance of certain issues that our end users are bringing up, and they're starting to prioritize based on, a customer's need, or, a natural disaster, for example. So I see us kind of even just getting better in those areas as time evolves.
Great, great. So Terry, with MAS, I believe, one of the things that we're going to see more and more is probably you aligning to sort of the sensors on the ground and be able to send signals to MAS, so we can start getting some of the MAS data in real time. But at the same time, I would continuously see sort of maturity of more of the machine learning models to go predictive, to go with predictive intelligence. Can you help us shed some more light on what do our audience expect to see in the next 6 months, year, 2 years roadmap from the MAS suite?
Sure. Well, so I'll describe what's already there, because there's quite a bit, and then describe where we're focused in terms of moving forward. So first off, we recognize that the setting up health models for the different asset types can be a challenge. We developed now over 66 standard models for T&D electric assets. This has been developed to a level that started with the British transmission system, well over, I don't know, a decade and a half ago. And continuing to work with customers to develop these ways to score these particular types of assets: load tap changers, power transformers, battery banks, substation equipment that you'll find. And then so it represents over 66 models because we had two major utilities across Europe, electric utilities, that participated in providing their IP even at the manufacturer level. So we deduct that detail, but the utility can figure out, what kind of transformer that is, and who the manufacturer is of those. So to help them guide that, we've then expanded that capability to the other asset classes. So having worked with EPRI, we're expanding that, beyond the common assets of, pumps, motors, generators, boiler feed pumps, expanding that across the rest of the assets that the utility deals with, then to focus on the pipeline side, or gas, pipeline integrity, and understanding, gas leaks and those types of things. So we've done that kind of work. I think if you move in the next slide, it will bring in some of the capabilities that we see today and what we're adding for AI to augment. I like to refer to as augmented intelligence, even rather than artificial many times, because that's what we're doing. We're depending on the workforce, and we're trying to help them accelerate and focus on what's in front of them and what's important. So the first thing is work order intelligence. Now, we released all these capabilities last June. Work order intelligence is really helping to define the problem, cause, remedy. So with that descriptive information, it's going to prompt the user with that work order on what is the problem code, what is the cause as it goes through the life cycle, what is the remedy to that. It can start to prompt priority. It can start to prompt even planning and scheduling and actual assignments to specific crews or individuals. So that's the stuff that AI can start to help them with those workflows and accelerate correct information on the work order level through its life cycle. Then in terms of understanding the failure mode effects analysis, building more to a reliability approach to, centered maintenance, we built that into the failure modes effects to really streamline the utility to be able to select those failure modes and then define on the right frequency. So then you're going to look at where can we extend frequencies, eliminate some inspections, combined others. That's all trying to build in there where AI can start to prompt reliability engineers and people that are developing these job plans. I'll add to that, utilities have another benefit. It's not focused on here before I get to Maximo Assistant, in the fact that as a community, they don't tend to compete in the same service territory. Therefore, utilities are very open in terms of how they interact with each other. They're very willing to share best practices, approaches, failures that have occurred. So there's an organization called the Maximal Utility Working Group, MUWG.org. It's a nonprofit organization owned by over 200 of our utility customers. They meet twice a year, essentially to share best practices, and we support those sessions with our engineers. So the next session is coming up in April 7, 8, and 9. It will be held in Charlotte, North Carolina, hosted by Duke Energy. So always a utility will host these events that take place in different areas, primarily across the US. And we see heavy participation across North America. Many Canadian utilities participate, as well as South America. And we occasionally, we do get Japan, TEPCO coming, Fingrid from, Finland. We'll see Transpower may show up from New Zealand, some from Australia. So we get quite a wide variety there. Okay, so back to the AI portion of this. Maximal Assistant is really built to try to be literally an assistant to the technician or the crew itself. So instead of the time that you sometimes take with trying to interrogate and understand when did that last asset fail, who worked on it, you can, in natural language, ask these questions on any database search, on any screen within Maximo, on the dashboards, and get prompted back with the responses. So we hope that will accelerate a crew and engineering's capability of working with the data that's there and helping them move in a more rapid fashion the work order lifecycle. And then, of course, intelligent condition-based maintenance is what we're adding to those workflows to, again, allow you to get condition assessments. So you can actually look for these condition insights on a particular asset and ask questions of the AI prompt and get that summary right in front of you in real time. So those are all things that we're adding to it, as well as I said in this 9.2 release, all that being available on the mobile device in the field.
Wonderful, Terry. That's good to hear. Lax, what do you see as adoption, or at least our own customers that we work with day in, day out? What do you see as their appetite to adopt some of the Gen AI, some of the data-based AI, machine learning kind of algorithms into their day-to-day lives?
So most of our clients who are already on MAS, the first thing that they want to do is get into the APM modules, which is available, which has AI and ML embedded in it. And we always say that the first step to do is to have your Maximo Health, a module within the APM bunch, which has to start so that you can start scoring your assets correctly. So if you ask me for the appetite, everybody is interested. Everybody wants to use these modules, which are definitely going to help the business and maintenance operations. But at the same time, the first step that they need to take is go back and check on the maturity of their data, of their processes, which will then feed into health. So Maximo Health it will check data in your core Maximo modules of asset, work order management, your predictive, corrective maintenances, your failure, the records of failures that you have, and then it will start scoring. So the appetite is there. It's just that everybody is getting started. It has to start from data level. It has to start from process level. It has to start small. Take a small set of your asset classes, the critical ones, if possible, or even if you want to subcategorize it into the, let's say, only your substation assets, which are criticality 1 assets, and then work from there, and then scale it to the larger asset. So that is what we have been doing, and that is what has been suggested to most of our clients.
Yeah. Danny, John, Bobby, have you guys decided where you want to start this within your environments as you go through some of this adoption of these capabilities?
Well, just like Lex just mentioned, it really does start with our data and processes. We are actively every day working on that roadmap to improve that data consistency, to revise and adjust processes so that you have things natively feeding correctly and properly into our systems, across systems, not have workarounds with our users, so you actually get a fulsome data view and break down those data silos. We are looking also and starting our AI journey in different ways with the creation of a data lake that looks at data consolidation across all of our different platforms, how we can bring that together to do different analytics, different predictive analysis in combination with that native AI that will come with each one of our different applications, just like Mass. So for us, it really does start though with the data, making sure our processes are mature and support what we want to see and how we want things to work.
John, your thoughts?
Yeah, Danny kind of stole a lot of what I was thinking as well, and Lax as well. But I think the core thing is that it is data quality. So we need to find ways that we can improve that data quality. We've got things like a data lake and other things, and I think AI can come into use as well to actually identify where data is not the best and identify, maybe bring systems together and help us improve that. So we're looking into that as well as a focus area, or as a use case for our introduction into AI. Our focus will be preventative maintenance. That's where we want to focus initially, is getting that preventative maintenance schedules and being proactive into our asset health. As Lax kind of mentioned, that's another important area that we're looking at. So I think it's about taking those pilots that are delivered and as you build those up, identifying and standardizing those use cases into like data models, asset health scoring, building those correct integration patterns between these different silos that you have. Mm-hmm. And then taking those successful use cases and trying to apply them at scale to the critical asset classes that you have out there.
No, well said, John. Bobby, you guys excited? Your team's ready to start using some of these capabilities as they come online?
Yeah. I think the big thing, just to add to both Danny and John's, and Lax said it perfectly, to use another analogy, Maximo might do, let's say, 10,000 things. Most companies that roll it out the first time might, only implement the first 10 things. And the important thing is it's definitely a journey. It's, but having that roadmap and definite path to, by this year, next time, we want to turn on the 11th thing. And what is that 11th thing? And, by end of 2028, we want to use it for 100 things. And we're starting to see a lot of end users and even the business side, getting excited about some of the new functionalities. And because again, it's a tool that they're able to make these decisions, operational decisions on. Like even John mentioned around the asset health and that kind of stuff. But it's definitely a journey for sure.
Great. Well, as we are having this conversation, I see a bunch of questions that have started showing up from our audience, and I'd like to at least get a few of these questions out. The first one that I see here to our audience is, how are you unifying the OT and the IT data sets in MAS without creating another centralized silo in the name of a data lake? So any thoughts on that? John, maybe this is something that you can pick up.
We haven't really got there yet.
I can take that, John, if it is okay.
Sure.
Sorry. So and maybe Terry, you can correct me if I'm going wrong, but what we have seen that MAS does unify OT/IT data without creating any new centralized logos. It focuses on linking and governing mostly the data that. I mean, rather than copying it, it governs and links the data. It has an MQTT broker. It pulls in data from the different systems. Yeah, and the unification happens through a shared asset-centric layer that is available now within MAS. So for the API OSLC-based accesses to IT data, OT signals, they are all filtered, contextualized, and acted in real time in MAS. And only so curated use case specific data, let's say for health predict analytics, are centralized using a lakehouse style approach with clear ownership and lineage. So because of this federation and the streaming, it helps deliver the OT/IT insights without having to create another monolithic data lake house, a data lake as a new side.
Thank you.
Yeah, something I would add, which is relevant to the IT and OT, connection that many might not realize, is that Maximo application suite supports ITAM, or IT asset management. Back in the early 2000s, we acquired a company called Main Control, which was the leader in IT asset management at the time, and we built those capabilities right into the application suite. So that is part of the capabilities that are there. Where that becomes important in particular is not only managing traditional IT assets, but also those assets that have elements of IT. So we even support smart meters in terms of the rollout and the actual testing that's required by the regulator, and supporting those campaigns to go out and do those tests, and support that with also, last gasp and tampering on the smart meters. So there's quite a close connection that the capability is actually built there into Maximo to help our customers when those assets merge to have elements of OT and IT in part of that asset itself.
Okay. Thank you for that. Now, here's another question that has come up, which is in regulated utilities, data governance and SIP compliance are critical. So how does MAS ensure predictive models remain auditable, traceable, and explainable? Terry, maybe this is something that you can.
So we work totally with the customer's data, obviously. And many of the regulation requirements go back to the asset and the work management activities and inspection activities that were performed on those assets. So that is all maintained, has been a heritage of Maximo for quite some time in terms of, capturing who updated the record and when was that updated and the work that was actually performed. So now with AI, you can accumulate those more rapidly. Also at the asset level, you can indicate what kinds of regulations that asset participates on, so that you can then collect those work activities related to that particular regulation to substantiate your compliance with that regulator.
Okay. This is a very interesting question. How do you drive adoption among field crews who may distrust algorithm-based work prioritization?
I could probably take that one.
Sure.
I was heavily involved in the rollout. So the big key, I would say the big key focus would be the buy-in of the end users, getting them involved in the design, the process. Once you get that buy-in and they understand how the end goal of being able to make these operational decisions, once they buy in, it just comes second nature. I mean, a lot of areas, obviously things might take longer. I use, again, another analogy. Yesterday it takes 10 minutes to dig a hole. Tomorrow, when you have all these systems It might take half an hour to dig that same hole because you have to do some paperwork after the fact. But that extra 20 minutes you're spending on that paperwork, look at all the stuff that you get out of it, all the data, and you're able to make all these decisions, and you're going to be able to maybe potentially dig less holes in the future, or, you know, dig the hole in the right spot, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think the key there is getting the proper subject matter experts that are, you know, not necessarily the most techie people, but that understand their role, that are open to change, and I think you'll be off to the races. That's kind of that'd be my suggestion.
Oh, thank you, Bobby. I think we have time for one last question, and this is: are failure predictions based primarily on asset conditions data, or do you incorporate contextual risk factors like weather, load, vegetation, and outage history? Terry, maybe you want to pick this one up?
Again, all of those things can be made part of the data from which any kind of prediction of degradation will be made. And even in real time, as far as weather information, it depends on, that you've made that data available and the quality of that data. But all of the key thing is that what the customer can do and the utility can do is they know their data and the quality of their data, and they know the models that they might best score the health of a specific asset class. But they will adjust the weighting of those different elements based on the data that they have and the quality of that data and the relative importance of that data. So over time, those models might be adjusted as data is better enriched and more reliable. I do think in the future, we're going to see more participation by the workforce in collaborating for good data, because they're seeing it being used. They're seeing that, that they're taking advantage of the input that they provide. So I think that's going to be one of the outcomes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Terry. And as we sort of come to an end of this, I personally wanted to take a moment and thank all our panelists for coming together and sharing their views and their thoughts and their roadmaps. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bobby. Terry, it is always great to have you talking to us. Breaking data silos is the first step towards a resilient and a future-ready utility. I think we are all working on the same mission, and will continue to do so. I hope today's discussion helped all audience members to see how IBM's Maximus application suite can enable that journey, how LTM working with IBM is moving the puck down the field, and how we can move from disparate data silos to predictive intelligence. Well, thank you all, and we look forward to continuing this conversation as we move forward. Megan, over to you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, panelists, a fantastic presentation, and a special thank you to everyone for making today's session possible. For everyone tuning in, please keep an eye out for a follow-up email that will have a link to the replay. And before you go, please take a quick moment to fill out a short survey, because your feedback really truly helps us make each power session even better. So on behalf of the entire Energy Central team, thank you for spending part of your day with us, and we can't wait to see you at our next event. This concludes our webinar today.